everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Trista, Assistant Director of Admissions here at Simon. I'm so excited to chat with you today, and today we have a special guest with us, one of our current students. Wallace, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Wallace Gundy, and I'm a first-year MBA here at Simon. I originally am from Philadelphia and moved here from Rhode Island.
Wonderful, thank you. We're so excited to have Wallace here today. So for many of you, you've received your admissions decisions, and for many of you, you've actually confirmed your intent to enroll, and we're so excited to have you here at Simon. So one of the big things that I know is on a lot of your minds is housing in Rochester. So today, to kind of kick things off, we wanted to talk a little bit about different housing options in Rochester, as well as just life in Rochester in general. And so Wallace actually is one of our students who lives off campus. So I will be asking her a lot of different questions just about what her experience has been like living off campus and her housing search in general. But before I do that, I did want to touch base a little bit about the different on-campus housing options we have as well. So we get a lot of questions about the housing lottery in particular. So for many of you, you might know that we do offer on-campus graduate housing here at the University of Rochester, but it is limited. And so because of that, we have a housing lottery, and there is an application that you do need to fill out if you are interested in being considered for on-campus housing. That lottery does take place on May 1st, so if that is something that you are hoping to be considered for, then please make sure to fill out your application and send that on in before May 1st. You can find all of the details in the application itself through our admitted student portal. Just reminding everyone that that is a great resource for you. It's got a wealth of information, and it also includes links to all of the different types of on-campus graduate housing that we do offer. So we have a few different types and styles of different apartments for you to consider, whether you're coming on your own, having a roommate, or maybe have a family. Lots of different options, but rest assured, if you are not someone who gets an immediate call after the housing lottery does take place, you could find out, up until a month or a few weeks before classes start or orientation starts, that you have the opportunity to take on a lease through one of our on-campus options. So keep that in mind. There will be a waiting list, and that's by lottery as well. So if you aren't able to obtain or secure housing right away, there is a waiting list, and I'm sure Wallace could share as well. She knows a lot of people who do live on campus, and maybe they didn't find out right away, but given some patience, you may find out, like I said, maybe a couple weeks or a month before classes start, that some on-campus housing is available. So that's how the on-campus housing process works. But like I said, I wanted to kind of dig in to the off-campus housing options as well, since we do have a number of students that live off-campus in the surrounding Rochester area. So Wallace, tell me a little bit about where you're currently living.
Sure. So I currently live in the Park Avenue district, and it's about 2.5 to 3 miles from campus. So it's definitely within a reasonable drive to campus each day. I do want to emphasize I do have a car, so that is one thing I'll touch on again in a minute. But it's a great neighborhood. What's really nice is that there are a lot of things that are walkable. Restaurants, coffee shops, just bookstores, bars, things of that nature. And so I was really, in my search, focused on living more in a neighborhood and was less concerned about living right next to campus. Being at grad school is very much a job in a good way, but I thought that having just a little bit of separation for me would be really a positive thing. In addition to that, for 10 years I've lived on my own, and I consider myself a very social person, so I felt like I would need a little bit of separation, and so living by myself, like in a one-bedroom, was a priority of mine as well. So Park Avenue has been great. However, I will tell you there are several other neighborhoods in Rochester that I have friends in that are either a walking distance, a quick drive, or a quick Uber, or a quick shuttle ride. I think that that's something that really sets Rochester apart, is that there are so many wonderful neighborhoods, none of which are very far away, and frankly, all of which are very reasonable. Cost of living in Rochester is very different than in a lot of cities.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned that you do have a car, which we'll get back to in a minute, but I assume you do drive to campus then?
I do drive to campus. There is a shuttle that's really not too far. However, having a car just for me makes the most sense. When I arrived here, I purchased a year-long parking pass for one of our locations on campus. I believe it was around $350, which would equate, essentially you're paying by a month, so it's prorated, and so it's been well worth it for me. I also am part of a carpool that we're very proud of, so I pick up some classmates in the morning who don't have cars, and we all help each other out in that regard. And then the walk to campus from the parking lot is a bit of a bonding experience here at Simon. It's about a 10-minute walk or so, but quite frankly, it's also kind of a nice time to get your steps in for the day, but also to catch up with friends, because inevitably you're parking at the same time as several of your classmates.
Sure, absolutely. And that's a great point in terms of how far the parking lot is from us, in addition to how far you live from campus. And to kind of compare and contrast our on-campus housing options, I think a lot of our incoming students, when they hear on-campus housing, they think, the residence halls are either 2 buildings away from Simon or, just across the quad or something like that. I do want to emphasize that our on-campus housing options are across the street from the campus. They're on our, closer to our medical center campus. So it is a little bit of a walk, probably more like a 15-minute walk. We do have shuttles as well, but just wanted to let you know that they are a little, not terribly far by any stretch of the imagination. We do have shuttles. You can walk, but it's not necessarily 2 buildings away from campus. So just to put things into perspective a little.
And something, if you don't mind me mentioning, I have several friends who live in the campus housing system, and I actually think that they like a little bit of separation. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of places to walk to just in front of one of the primary on-campus housing locations, and I think that there seems to be a bit more of an urban feel in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably nice for graduate students as well, not to feel like they're kind of living in a dorm again. Yeah. Well, good. And so how did you find your housing?
That's a great question. So I tapped into several resources. So first of all, I came to one of the admissions weekends here at Simon. Later on in the process, when I was pretty convinced I would be moving to Rochester and getting really excited, and everyone here was such a wealth of resources in terms of offering to help with housing suggestions. So one student in particular, I sent him a couple of places I found, and he sent me this incredible grid of this map he had made in one of the platforms that you'll learn as a first-year MBA student of what was where and the region, etc., price points, things of that nature, and helped me weigh the pros and cons. So that helped me narrow things down a little bit. As I already mentioned, I was really more concerned about living sort of in a good neighborhood for me versus being right next to campus, and so right off the bat I targeted sort of probably 6 or 7 general areas. What I did then was I contacted those real estate agents and quickly eliminated some based on price point or whatever it might have been, move-in dates, things of that nature, and narrowed it down to one sort of big housing consortium, Hannah Properties, which has I think about 16 buildings in Rochester. I was really wanting to be in a managed property, having a traditional landlord, having a lock to get into the building, like a true apartment complex. Things like that were a priority of mine, but also a priority of my parents. So that also narrowed things down a little bit. So the apartment building I chose is the Whittier, and again, it's owned by Hannah Properties, and it's been great. I pay around $800 a month, and that does include heat, which is significant. That's a significant perk, that it does include heat. It also includes a covered parking spot. I actually had no idea why that was listed as a perk. I was like, great, covered parking. And then winter came, and I realized why that was such a benefit. There's also a gym as well as laundry in the building, not in the unit. So those are definitely some things that you'll want to look for if you're looking for off-campus housing. I would definitely say covered parking if you have a car as a priority, laundry in your building, in your unit if you really want that, but especially in your building. And then we have a wonderful gym on campus, but it also helps to have a gym right then and there there's sort of no excuses.
Sure. And so just to reiterate, you do live alone in this property, and so many of our students, I would say that that's maybe a little bit more common. I think more of our students do live have roommates or live in a multi-bedroom apartment, and so they actually save a little bit more money that way because they're able to split utilities and things like that. So keep that in mind as well. But as Wallace shared, Rochester housing is very affordable, which is great.
I would say that there are probably a quarter of us who live just of the off-campus students, a quarter of us that live off campus that live alone. So it's quite common to have a roommate.
Yeah, wonderful. And so moving on from your housing search and how you went about that and how you get around Rochester using your vehicle, moving on to more life in Rochester. Tell me a little bit about the things that you like to do in general.
Absolutely. So I wish I had more free time is the big thing. What I really love about Rochester is that I would say there sort of are three Rochesters. There's the urban type Rochester, very neighborhoody, as I mentioned before. There's the very commercial Rochester. There are still several big industries in Rochester. So this is very much a town with a lot of students, but it's also a town with a lot of people who work in industry living here. But then there's also very much the outdoorsy Rochester, so parks, running trails, biking trails, places you can go and apple picking, just all sorts of things that are really geared toward the outdoors. So that's something I've really loved about Rochester. As far as some of my favorite places, I would consider myself a foodie, so you have to pare that down a little bit on a grad student budget, but it is fun to go out to dinner on the weekends with a group of friends. Again, things in Rochester are definitely more affordable than in a lot of cities. I do have probably, I guess I'll say I do have a favorite restaurant, and that's Rome, right on Park. I can walk there, and actually sometimes I bring my laptop and just sit and get some work done and have dinner, which is nice. So that's a favorite place of mine. As far as study spots, there's so many wonderful places on campus, but sometimes it's nice to get a change in scenery, and so Spot Coffee is a popular place for folks to study, as well as the Eastman School of Music, which is part of University of Rochester, but it is one of few campuses that is actually a bit separate. It's downtown, and it's always very quiet in there, despite it being a music library. And then as far as outdoorsy activities, I am a runner, and I run a few marathons in the past. It's been a few years, but I do like to run and stay active outdoors, and so I feel very safe and very much like there are a lot of different options for routes in town. So I'll either run along the river or come to campus and run before class and then change up in the gym or things of that nature. So there's absolutely no shortage of things to do. If you're a skier, I'm not, but if you're a skier, there also are wonderful options. And then I would also just say, the art scene here is really incredible. There are several museums. We actually have a whole arts district, the Avenue of the Arts, that has wonderful things just to walk around and see. Something I also really love is that you're gonna find classmates who have different interests, and so you're constantly, if you put something in the Slack chat that hey, I'm heading to the farmer's market on Saturday, you're inevitably gonna get 5 or 10 or maybe many more people saying, oh hey, let me join. So there's always going to be somebody that's interested in tagging along, and that's something that I really loved about being here at Simon. If you want to have some moments to yourself, by all means, but if you're looking on going on some Rochester adventures with some friends, there will be no dearth of that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I think Wallace did a really great job about sharing all of the different opportunities and things to do for fun outside of campus. If you're looking for more information about things to do on campus, like more information about clubs or organizations, you can check out our webinars, our upcoming webinars. We'll be learning a little bit more about the different opportunities here on campus, but I hope this was so helpful for you. Thank you so much, Wallace.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, we appreciate your time, and hopefully for all of you, this will help you get started on your life in Rochester and housing search. Thanks so much, everyone.